Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Karen Weaver. An emerging trend on larger college campuses is the creation of innovation districts, typically located adjacent to the campus, or in the case of colleges with multiple campuses, the main location. These ecosystems involve businesses, residential, and entertainment and sports options, creating a 24-hour-a-day energy to an otherwise sleepy part of the town. The upside of this trend is obvious to real estate businesses. Increasingly, colleges are realizing the potential these have to create a new campus environment and spirit. My guest today is Erik Williams. Erik is the real estate practice chair at Saul Ewing LLP. Erik has extensive experience in this industry and is based in Philadelphia, an emerging hub in innovation districts. We also discussed today the potential for using this financial vehicle to further energize NIL possibilities for college athletes. Hello, Erik, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you could join me today.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, Karen. Thanks so much.
You know, you do such interesting work in this whole area of innovation and innovation spaces around campuses. You and I both live in Philadelphia. We can see maybe on a daily basis what is going on around Penn, what is going on around Drexel, but other places around the country too. So help my audience understand what these districts are and how they're emerging.
Absolutely, Karen. Well, thanks so much. I did get my start working on innovation districts here in Philadelphia, but I've been fortunate to work on them across the country. They're a relatively new trend, but are part of I think, a broader macro trend in development around higher ed institutions. And if I could go back, 100 years to kind of get us to where we are, I think Penn's development is very illustrative of this point. So a lot of the development around Penn moved to its current location in 1892. And there was a lot of development in the early 1900s. But the largest expansion of Penn really happened after World War II. And it was fueled by the GI Bill and increases in student enrollment, where a lot of land adjacent to the existing campus was made available through redevelopment authority efforts. And it was seen as an urban renewal project for the city. And so neighborhoods adjacent to the university were acquired. This continued through the 50s and 60s when the baby boomers were going through college, and again, enrollments were pushing up. And then in the 70s, we saw a decline in manufacturing in a lot of our traditional city cores: Atlanta, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, Boston. All saw a flight of manufacturing jobs and residents who were moving to the suburbs at the time. So higher ed institutions were part of city plans for economic growth and redevelopment. And so again, there was an expansion of a lot of our urban colleges, and they expanded in a way, and I think Penn demonstrated this, that was not always beneficial for the adjacent neighborhoods. A lot of neighbors were displaced, businesses, community businesses were acquired and pushed out. And these universities became virtual fortresses within their urban enclaves. They shut themselves out to the outside neighborhoods, and they really looked to develop inward. That changed at the end of the 90s, and Penn was one of the leaders in this capacity. Penn started looking at the adjacent neighborhoods and realized that it needed to develop in a way that was more beneficial for the community in which it was sitting, and not just focused on the interior of the campus, but look outside. And so efforts were made to open up, and you see this in the architecture of some of the newer buildings that actually opened up to the outside neighborhoods. Gates were removed. Internal pedestrian pathways were open to outside neighborhoods. And then efforts were made to build out retail corridors that were open to both students, faculty, and neighborhoods. And investments were made in the neighborhoods. Schools were built. Penn has famously built a public school where Penn students teach, and that has benefited the surrounding neighborhood. And this trend was seen all over the country. The innovation district is the next step in this evolution. And it happened really within the last 10 to 15 years, really after the 2008 recession. A lot of higher ed institutions wanted to continue this path of developing in a way that would be inclusive and beneficial to the surrounding neighborhoods, but would also create a dynamic atmosphere that was attractive to students and faculty alike, and would drive enrollment and help recruit talent for its institutions, and also take advantage of the greatest asset of one of the greatest assets of our institutions of higher learning, which is the knowledge which is developed there, and the technologies and the intellectual property which is being created in through research and development, and the natural the natural order of business in these higher ed institutions. So the Innovation District was born. It was an attempt to co-locate with the anchor institution industry that was developing technologies, medical technologies, biotechnologies, and collaborating with the university and commercializing university intellectual property to create an ecosystem where ideas could be taken through the process of commercialization and taken to the market, and a company could grow from inception to the idea phase, through the early phases of development of the idea and the early commercialization, to manufacturing, and then hopefully taking it public and going to the marketplace. And we've seen that in a lot of the innovation districts which have started to sprout up all over the country. I should mention here that while this is part of this sort of 50-year macro trend of development around higher ed institutions, over that same period in the United States, at the beginning of that 50-year period when everything was moving to the suburbs, that same thing happened in our innovation space in the United States. And that was out in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto. A lot of the technology that was coming out of Stanford University came to be developed in suburban office parks in that part of the country. And for 50 years, that was the center of our economy, our technology economy in the United States. So this trend now of innovation districts is actually spreading that ecosystem throughout the country, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in Philadelphia, in Austin, and Chicago, and Seattle. The list goes on as these innovation districts start to develop from the ground up and build out this ecosystem, which includes the thought leaders, the technologists, the individuals, the R&D PhDs at the universities who are creating these concepts and ideas, are then pairing with the business ecosystem, the capital that is coming to help commercialize these ideas. And they're building out a broader based technology ecosystem across the country. And in doing so, they're really driving the economies of the cities and regions in which these innovation districts sit.
Well, that's a great overview. Thank you for providing that. And I did not realize that that's where we got the term Silicon Valley, but that makes total sense. That's where it all sort of begun. So let's take this over into sports and entertainment now. And a couple of the places that you and I have gone back and forth over email about is University of Texas at Austin, the University of Maryland and what they're doing in the College Park area, and of course this Town, CY Town at Iowa State. And those seem to be yet another, like a hybrid version of these innovation districts. So talk a little bit about how athletics fits into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great question, Karen. The interesting thing about these innovation districts is that um, it is really creating a new trend in real estate development, which is about placemaking. We talk about how technology originally was developing in Silicon Valley, which is a beautiful place, but is really a suburban office park, right? Which is no matter how great the architecture is and how beautiful the office park is, it's still a suburban office park that everyone drives to for their job, and then they leave at night and they go home and they go away from it. These innovation districts are supposed to be activated 24/7. They're live, work, play environments. And that's where the sports and entertainment comes in, because the concept with these innovation districts is not that you're creating this sort of place where you go work and business takes place and then it shuts off at night. You want the space to be dynamic. You want it to be activated. You want it to attract people all of the time, not just during the work day, but at night, on weekends, at all times throughout the year. And so we're seeing increasingly that sports and entertainment components are being built into innovation districts, because that is a way to help activate space. It's a way to have really dynamic events to draw people who are both living and working within the innovation district, but also those that are coming from outside. It's really important in innovation districts to bring an influx of people in, to take advantage of the retail, to witness what is happening within the innovation district, and to keep those energy levels high and where they should be, and to keep the exchange of ideas flowing in the innovation district. And sports and entertainment are one of our best, as a culture, probably one of our best ways of activating space and bringing people, a diverse crowd of people, to a place to witness an event. So just by way of example, the University of Texas in Austin, which you mentioned, they've developed an innovation district in partnership with their medical school. And you'll often see that these innovation districts are either on the university side of the house or on the medical side of the house, because both provide research and development hospitals that are engaged in developing, like University of Pennsylvania's medical system, which is one of the nation's leaders in the development of a whole host of different technologies, fighting cancer, and CHOP as well. CHOP is another great institution. But on the medical side of the house, you see a lot of great technological and biomedical advancements as well. But in the University of Texas, the Moody Center is a 15,000 seat dual purpose arena. It's for the men and women's basketball program, but it's also an entertainment venue. You can hold concerts there. And so what you see in that situation is, picture your innovation district. You have advanced manufacturing buildings, you have academic buildings, you have R&D buildings, you have laboratory space, you have housing. So you have residents who are living there, you have restaurants, you have retail, and now you have an entertainment center, all connected by green spaces, by pedestrian friendly transit hubs. You're going to have public transportation that's connecting it. You have bike lanes. You have green technologies that are being implemented in the buildings, and then the building architecture. And then you have this entertainment venue that's nestled right in there to, again, help activate the space and keep it active. So with men's and women's basketball playing there, between the two of them, you're talking about probably 40 to 50 nights a year events. And then you throw on probably another 50 events for concerts. So that's 100 nights a year or more, where you're going to have event-based activity in your innovation district, just adding to the overall activity level and vibe. And we're seeing this, by the way, I should mention, in professional sports as well. I think a lot of our professional sports owners have recognized that the real estate aspects that they have in the past not really focused on the real estate aspects of their uh, franchise, right? A lot of times in the past, we've seen arenas that have been built actually by the municipality or city in which they're sitting. They're bond dollars, they're taxpayer dollars, and they're a second thought to the owner. They just want to make sure that it's built for them so that their team can play there. I think a lot of our owners now are recognizing that the real estate's a real asset. You're driving all of that activity to the space over the course of a year. There's people want to be there. You can develop residential facilities around there. You can develop retail, restaurants, bars, hotels, casinos. Um, Sorry about that.
Okay.
Uh, Casinos, hotels, other types of real estate which are taking advantage of the energy created by the sporting venue, by the events which take place in the sporting venue. People want to co-locate around that, and so our professional sports teams are now starting to think about that and invest in that. And the good thing for the taxpayer is that means that they're going to be more likely to actually pay for the construction of their facilities now more than they were in the past. And they're going to be looking for less
Huh.
public subsidies, less taxpayer dollars, because they recognize that that is phase one of building out a more comprehensive real estate development around the sporting venue, um, that can take advantage again of the activities that have been developed there. At the University of Maryland, we're seeing the same thing. University of Maryland is developing in College Park their innovation district. They have the Maryland Basketball Performance Center, which is adjacent to their venue, where the Terrapins play. The men's and women's basketball team plays. This is a training facility. It's actually a showcase center. It's beautiful glass. The architecture is wonderful. It's a showpiece. It's full of amenities, gyms, training facilities, multimedia presentations. It's something again to draw people into the space, to make it amenity for the folks the students that are attending school there, the faculty, the people living around College Park. And again, it's to drive that dynamic physical realm, which the Innovation District is supposed to embody, which strengthens the energy and the proximity, and that's where the knowledge spillover happens, when you're bringing all these people into the place to experience it, to exchange ideas, to participate in the space. And we're seeing this all over the place. I mean, in all of our innovation districts. And again, this is a relatively new trend. We're talking about 10, 15 years at this point. So they're all starting to look for new ways to drive engagement with the district, and that runs the gamut. It runs from having a shopping center and food court, all the way up to sporting arenas and entertainment venues, all manner of aspects in which the population, both living within and working within the innovation district and those outside, can come and engage and experience the innovation district.
It sounds a little bit like the old small town feel inside of a large city. You're trying to literally create an energetic area that has yet a small town walkable feel. Does that sound right?
That's exactly right. And I should mention here, Karen, that This is very important for the future of our American cities too, because we'll see, and this is, I think one of the great aspects of the innovation district. If you look at the cities that have struggled a little bit to recover post-pandemic, they're the cities whose downtown, whose central district became over time a central business district, right? A central business district is a one-dimensional district. It's where your businesses are located. It's where your offices are located, and they are, during the day, pre-pandemic, they were very, very active. It spilled over into ground floor retail and created opportunities for bars and restaurants and that kind of engagement. But at night, central business districts pre-pandemic emptied out and were, it could not support retail at night. It sometimes became dangerous at night because there wasn't enough activity in central business districts. Post-pandemic, it's become very difficult for central business districts because we still do not have the volume of office workers returning to the offices to maintain the level of activity that you need to support retail, to support, to keep crime out. And it's become a problem. We want to convert our central business districts into more like these innovation districts, which are living districts. It's not just, you don't just go there to work, you go there to live and to play. You go there to go to sporting events, you go there to go to entertainment events, and you also live there. When you can create that multi-dimensional dynamic where you have populations that are there at all hours of the day, which may not be the same populations, right? I mean, you might work there, you might not live there. You might just be going there for your day job, but there are people that live there and who may be working elsewhere, or they may be working there also. But that keeps the continuity of energy and population there going all day long. And the interesting thing about these innovation districts is a lot of these jobs are in technology and in research and development, are require you to be there in person. These are not the kind of jobs that you can do from home. So there is still activity here. The scientists are still in their laboratories. The technicians are still in their advanced manufacturing facilities. So they have been resilient. I think post-pandemic, they've continued to thrive. There are continuing to be developed across the country and seem to have rebounded more quickly than the overall office market has, which has been sluggish and I think will be until there is some equilibrium in the office market is achieved. But it's a really fascinating dynamic. It almost foresaw the pandemic and the sort of the difficulties that as a society we were going to have going through that, and created this environment that was resilient to it, continues to be vibrant and is thriving on the other side.
So that's fascinating. I really appreciate you kind of giving us that, forward thinking look. Now, here's another forward thinking angle that I'd like you to kind of pontificate on a little bit. One of the folks who's leading the NIL efforts on behalf of athletes, aggregating athletes, promoting their platforms, helping them monetize the space, has told me in another podcast that he believes that eventually colleges and universities may actually do equity deals with athletes in return for, the athletes promoting them, and he says he could see athletes becoming millionaires in partnership with their universities due to these kinds of deals. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. These deals are often developed. The university brings the land to the deal, and then you have a third party developer, which develops and is often charged with putting the equity together for the deals. But often the universities have the right to participate in the deals. And if the universities were to make those participations available to athletes as part of a an equity deal, that is a fascinating idea. And certainly, I mean, it actually makes me think back to, Michael Jordan negotiating the equity deal with Nike on his, his
Exactly.
brand, and
Exactly.
what a home run that was for for Michael Jordan.
Yes.
I mean, this is very
Yes.
similar. I mean, if instead of cash, you get a piece of this deal, and these deals are very lucrative deals. These are advanced, these assets that are being developed, whether they're laboratory, multi-story laboratory buildings, R&D buildings, um, they are they're they're great assets. They're very accretive. They're great returns on the equity in these deals, and that's a fascinating, I think, idea. Instead of doing a cash deal, um, offering a piece of equity in one of these fantastic projects.
Think what that would mean to the transfer portal right now with
Oh
that.
yeah,
Oh, this guy's going to give me 50,000, but they're going to give me 1% stake in the R&D building
right.
they're putting up.
No, it's fantastic. It's a great concept.
Well, my last question is this, and we've talked a lot about cities and suburban kind of areas, but what about places where it's small town America? Colleges have traditionally been located in places that are, away from city centers. What kind of advice might you have to college presidents about if they want to do something like this in their town in partnership with either state funds or local funds or businesses, attracting businesses? How might that work?
Yeah, Karen, that's a great point, and I should emphasize these are not limited to innovation districts, are not limited to your sort of big American cities. As you note, a lot of our universities are located in more rural settings and suburban settings. The the driver of this is the anchor institution itself, right? So the fact that we have an institution, which has the talent already aggregated, has the technologies which are being developed, and has surplus land. It's important to note that one of the keys to this is that there is land available for development, and a lot of the ones we've discussed, this was industrial land or land adjacent to campus that was acquired by the institution over a period of years in its efforts to redevelop or think in a forward fashion about expanding its campus. This is a way to activate that land. And the underlying economics are different depending on the rent that you can get for the buildings. And in some of the more rural and suburban areas, you're not getting the same rents that you're getting in a New York City or a Philadelphia or a Seattle or an Austin. But you can still get rents. And as you note, there are subsidies available, because these are great economic drivers. And in a lot of our more rural areas that are struggling with the loss of manufacturing jobs, with the lack of employers in the region, this is a way to create some economic opportunity, at really, for the university, low cost. I mean, when universities do these deals, the land, they already have the land, and whether the return on that land is up to the university. Some can contribute the land at a low cost in order to encourage the development and get the amenity. Others are more interested in making sure they get a fair market value return on their land. But again, if the university is looking um, to drive this, and there's all kinds of benefits to the university, as I may have mentioned earlier in our discussion. It drives enrollment, it drives talent recruitment, it drives DEI opportunities if you're trying to bring in a more diverse population of students and faculty, and then it also is a bridge between the university and industry, and gives an opportunity for students to have a pathway into jobs after college or internships while they're still in college. So there's all kinds of benefits to the university beyond the dollars and cents, and they can make the decision to contribute their land for less return in order to make these projects more feasible. And then you throw into the capital stack some state subsidies, some tax benefits, and they become feasible. So we're seeing them all over the country, not just in urban areas.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk with you, because I had a sense that we were going to have a really good conversation about what not only the past has been, but what the future holds. So, Erik, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Karen. This has been great.
Terrific.